This is a place.
This is the place.
This is a place. We want to talk about. This is a place. Welcome to this week's episode of This is a Place podcast. My name is Nate.
My name is Brandon.
And happy anniversary of the beginning of the streak.
The streak.
So
the greatest baseball winning streak of all time. This is a little bit of a break in Lagoon Summer because, I mean, it's the day of the streak. We have to talk about it. So
it's the day of the streak. And when you have an opportunity to have local celebrities on, you have to take it.
What anniversary is this technically?
Well, 87 was the streak, right?
Yeah.
So 38 years. I should be able to do that math really easily.
There's a lot of people that can, and I'm not one of them. I have to use a calculator. But 38 years ago, we should have saved this for 2 years in the future. A 40th anniversary, that's a pretty big one. And I think there's some notable things happening with the streak and talk about it. So it's a good time to address it. But we should address at the beginning. We did kind of already do an episode on this. So if you're feeling like this is deja vu, it is a little bit.
Or that, man, these guys are really running out of things to talk about.
We will never run out of things to talk about. So don't get your hopes up. But we did feel like we had to revisit this because we got a couple of people with a little better knowledge of the streak and the Trappers than us. We really weren't equipped to do it. I mean, we did our best. We gave it the old college try. But these guys know baseball and they know the Trappers. So thanks to my uncle kind of hooking us up with the crew that we were able to chat with, and pretty fun interview. We didn't talk a lot, and you'll hear that in the interview. I asked one or two questions, and that was about it. They kind of took the show, and I'm totally good with that because it was a fun conversation.
And if you know me, it's hard to keep me quiet, but I also love hearing stories. So it was kind of fun to be a fly on the wall and feel like I kind of felt like we were at a restaurant or bar. We don't really go to bars, but say we're at a sports bar, or restaurant, and these guys were sitting at a table next to us and we're just eavesdropping on the conversation. So we'll let everybody else who's listening to this episode eavesdrop on their conversation. So let's take a listen.
Ryan, thanks for bringing everybody together to talk about the Salt Lake Trappers. You want to introduce everyone?
Yeah, we have Steve Pearson, who was the general manager of the Trappers and pretty much put this whole crew together as far as I'm concerned. I'm sure everybody else as well. Dave Baggett, who was a former player of the Salt Lake Trappers, and then assistant general manager for the Streak, and then the general manager after the Streak. I think it was a year after, was it, Dave? And then Andy Icona and I were the bat boys for the Trappers, who were also brought on by Steve Pearson. So Steve knows how to put a good crew together.
Had a hell of a crew. Ryan was the first 9-year-old delivering beer. I mean,
yeah. Cold beer.
There you go.
I believe after the games, Ryan, you would come in and say, "Who wants a cold beer?" And I like say, and then you give us 3 beers, we gave you $5.
So I think I give you your beer for free, Dave.
Yeah, there was no financial exchange on those.
No.
That was we knew we needed to get a couple of extra beers every time we went to Western Family. We'd get a couple of extra beers, put them on ice, and have them as we were walking through the clubhouse. You know, Ryan and I actually talked about that and said we probably shouldn't discuss that kind of stuff because he was 12, I was 11, or he was 11, I was 10, and
The
walking through the
statue is
clubhouse.
passed, way past.
Yeah.
You're good.
No, that's a great story. One that can't be repeated in person, but it's still a great story.
But
It
I
is a
want to
great
go.
story.
I want to go on the record. We did never violated any child labor laws ever.
Never.
Just saying.
It was a pleasure to work there. When I look back at that and think, okay, what did we get paid and what time did I show up? I mean, we were there. Ryan and I used to catch that bus at 11 o'clock in the afternoon, get there by noon for a 7 o'clock first pitch, leave at 10:30, 11 o'clock. It was the best times ever.
I wouldn't
Wow.
call it work. I wouldn't call it work. I would call it nothing but pleasure.
Yeah. Now I got to pay Bat Boys $40 a game.
No,
Hey,
Pay him a beer anymore.
No beer.
40
Hey,
bucks a game.
Yeah.
Where do I sign up?
I know. Dude, it's
Hey,
unbelievable.
Hey, Dave, if I pop up there, can I come and bat boy a game for y'all?
You know what? I think that'd be awesome. I would do. In fact, you should come and do it on July 26th when the Ogden Raptors are going to pay homage to the Trappers and be the Salt Lake Trappers for that night.
I'll
So-
be there and I'll
Oh, wow.
try to get
Oh.
Andy.
There'll be Trapper jerseys. I'll suit you up. You guys are the honorary Bat Boys for the night.
Wouldn't
They-
they be Batman at that point?
Oh,
Well, that's yet to be determined.
Batman and Robin.
There you
Bat
go.
persons.
I like that. And wear the costumes as well.
I need to stick that one on my calendar bag. So that's the 26th. Yeah.
July 26th, yeah. I've
we
got
better
the
put that on
jerseys
our
being
calendar,
made.
too.
I'll have hats made and just to have some fun. I mean, people don't realize that basically the Ogden Raptors are the immediate extension of what was the Salt Lake Trappers. And who would have thought, after being affiliated for almost 30 years, that we'd now be back in an environment where we're playing as an independent. So it's all come full circle. And, you know, we try to, at least, and Steve knows this, Ryan, you guys won't know, but when the Bees announced that they were leaving Smith's Ballpark, I spent a couple of years working with Salt Lake officials about bringing back an expansion franchise in the Pioneer League that could be 30 miles from Ogden and be an immediate rival and bring back the Salt Lake Trappers. And I thought real close that it was gonna happen. And then the final decision came down about the ballpark where they're basically going to tear it down and use it for other functions that Salt Lake City deems appropriate. So it was a nice try. We'll continue to keep trying to do it. There's a place in Salt Lake for us to play where I've got a team that I can put there I could put it together in about 48 hours.
Wow.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah. Find me a ballpark and I'll bring the Trappers back to Salt Lake.
Awesome.
Well, could we start at, sounds like we've got a couple experts on here, but let's talk about how the Trappers began. How did that whole journey before the streak actually happened?
Go
All
ahead,
right.
Steve.
So 1984, a gentleman by the name of Roger Russell, he was the owner of the Salt Lake Gulls at that time. And for an entirely different podcast, I can go through the demise of the Salt Lake Gulls and what we had to do and the lessons we learned from 1984 to 1985. Long story short, Salt Lake Gulls moved from Salt Lake to Calgary, Canada, in the Pacific Coast League. The Calgary franchise in the Pioneer League, Mel Kowalczyk and Peter Pocklington, the owners of the Edmonton Oilers, bought that ball club. And Mel's no dummy. He looked at it and said, hey, Salt Lake City's open. I'm going to move the Pioneer League team to Salt Lake City. So I got a call from him in December of 1984. And he said, hey, you want to keep working in baseball? I want to bring this club in. And I said, yeah. So best part about it is we were capitalized and we were funded. So we came in and started operating in 1985. Fully independent, married up with Van Schley and Texas Star Baseball, and he started bringing teams in. And Bags, did you play in Idaho in '85?
Yeah, I was in Idaho Falls in '85.
Yeah, so Dave plays for Idaho Falls in '85, and then in
Ruben
'86.
Ruben Rodriguez was his skipper.
Yeah, good old Rube.
Yeah, so that was 1985, and then in 19 between '85 and '86, Jack Donovan put together a group of owners, which included Artie Marino and George Gross, the Artie Marino that owns the Anaheim Angels, same guy. So they put together a group of 17 or 18 guys, and they bought this club from the guys in Canada. And they still happen to, want to be independent. So we ran independent. Dave, did you try out in '86?
No, in fact, I decided I was done playing baseball, and Van called me 2 weeks before the season was to start and said, "Come play center field." I said, "Oh, what the hell? I got nothing else to do." I was
So
out of shape. It took a while, but we got there.
I can attest when Dave walked into the locker room in '86. I remember him from '85 as a bat boy, but when he came in, he was like a seasoned professional, and he was like a superstar when he walked in there. The guys were looking at him like, "Who is this guy?" I remember that.
Well, thanks, Ryan. That's very kind.
So anyway, so that's kind of how it got started. And then in '87, Bags had so much fun in Salt Lake, he decided he wanted to stop playing and get into management. And he went to work for me, hustling program ads and season tickets.
Yeah, $500 a month.
Which was more than he was making as a player. So, I mean,
Here's a fun story. A lot of people ask, Steve. I know you know the answer, so I'll let you take it. A lot of people ask me, how did the Trappers name come to be in Salt Lake? And when I tell them the answer, it's mind-boggling. Go ahead.
so true story. Newspaper guy, Lee Benson, right? Used to write for the Deseret News. I'm in the clubhouse in '85, or in the press box in '85. And so he comes to me and he says, "Hey, Steve, how did you guys get to the Trappers?" And I looked him right in the eyeballs and I said, "It rhymes with jazz." And because jazz makes no sense, Trappers makes no sense, but it was a good name. And the best part about it is we didn't have to buy new uniforms and hats
Right.
that year. We got the
Right.
hats sent down from Edmonton, and uniforms were
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah, they had the Edmonton Trappers, and they had extra uniforms, so they shipped them to Salt Lake and said, "You're the Trappers."
And it was interesting, and I'm trying to these are spitballing numbers, but I think in 1985 we drew about 65,000 people.
Yeah.
In '86 we bumped it up to over 100.
108.
108, and then '87 we ratcheted up to 180. And then Bags, when you were finishing, how much were you drawn in those last years?
The last season of the Trappers in '92 was 217,000 and change.
And you do that over 217 over 35 games.
Yeah.
And I can, and the one thing I can tell you about Steve and Dave, they know how to make it family friendly. They know how to make it fun for everybody that's there, and they make it the team and what they produce is actually you go to the game thinking your team's going to win the game. And when Andy and I were on the field every single game, there wasn't a game that we stepped on that field that we didn't think we were going to win that game.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't just because we were overconfident. We weren't overconfident in any reason. The team, it's just that you knew what was going on behind the scenes. You're knowing what's going on at BP. You know what was happening at practice. You knew what was happening, and these guys were serious about playing ball.
Yeah, I think one of the cool things that when you talk about the attendance, I was looking at your website today, Steve, and seeing the attendance, and I'm thinking that can't be right because as a kid, that ballpark to me was packed. Yep. There wasn't an empty seat. It seemed to me like that place was always packed, and to think that there was only 200,000 people that came all season, that to me, I have a hard time registering that, because to me, as an 11-year-old kid on that field, that place was packed every night, especially that streak year. It was packed, and.
Yeah, but for minor league baseball at that time in the '80s, to average almost 6,000 people a game, it's huge, absolutely huge.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, even in comparison, in Ogden, since we moved into Lindquist Field in 1997, we've led the league in attendance every year, and it's always around. I could throw a dart at and tell you what the attendance is going to be, but it's right around 3,700 a game. So to think
Mhm.
about 30 something years ago, averaging 6,000 a game, that's remarkable. You don't even have most AAA clubs in today's game don't average 6,000 a game. They'll report it, but every time you watch a video, there's nobody in the stands.
You know what's fun as well? Tommy was out there getting the field ready. The team was out there swinging and goofing around, throwing balls around, and getting kind of warmed up and just kind of getting loose for the game. And the whole team would stand out there for the Star Spangled Banner. And after every victory, we got to hear the Isley brothers shout, which I don't know who came up with that, but whoever came up with that, that was something that would draw the crowd for the next night. Dave,
I
that
think it was, yeah. I think it was you shout. In fact, I gotta bring shout back. I forgot all about that. Right?
I love that so much. I would go out there and I would fall asleep listening to that song.
That was
I
Jack Donovan. Jack Donovan was the one that kind of gave us the the deal. And what's interesting is, during the goals and up until then, every minor league ball, we had an organist. Everybody was playing an organist. No one was playing canned music. Well, one of the first, well, not one of the first things, but I got an old radio cart player. You guys might
Yeah.
not remember this,
I remember it.
but
I
it's
remember
like
you
an
sticking them in.
eight track
Yeah.
player that we
Yeah.
put all the music pre-recorded on it, and it was just queued up, and Mike Runge had 3 ready to go at any time. Just push it in, hit the play button, and we had music going.
So
How about
so
yell, whistle, bark?
Yell,
Yeah.
whistle, bark. Dave Baggett had the whole stadium. He had 12,000 people barking.
I'm
Well-
going to bring that back too.
Well, the best part about that Isley's brothers is as soon as that last pitch, I mean, the pitch hadn't even hit the catcher's glove sometimes, and it was queued up and it was playing, and it was about as loud as you could play it at that stadium without blowing your ears out, and it got everybody excited. It was like one last little thing to get everybody up, and they're dancing and they're walking out of there, dancing with each other. I mean, I don't know how many times I'd look up in the stands and there'd be people just dancing.
Yeah, Brandon, one thing to add in regards to attendance and all that is people have to remember the Salt Lake Gulls left for a reason. And when the PCL let them leave, and the PCL actually said that Salt Lake is not a baseball market, never will be. So then these independent guys come in, set the world on storm, and all of a sudden it's a baseball market again. So Steve and I both will never take credit for the success that baseball's had in Salt Lake. But if it wasn't for the success of the Salt Lake Trappers, the Bees would have never came to town.
Yeah, they wouldn't have come back at all. No way.
Yep.
The bees and whatever the future holds pretty soon,
Right.
right?
Right. The Trappers set the table. I don't care what anybody else says. Those who know.
I think that there's another point to that, though, not only because of the performance on the field, but because of the entertainment that was provided in between innings, during pitching changes. Just like Ryan's talking about, the entertainment value or the things that went on at that ballpark and the promotions that were ran were top level. And to be in Pioneer League Baseball and the things that were done, the way that you guys architect that, it was incredible.
You
guys just did a
it
good
drove
job
me
with the
nuts with
entertainment.
Donovan a lot because we never charged more than $5 for a ticket, and that drove me crazy all the time because we're trying to make a living too.
But we would, and would have big promotional nights, go to Albertsons or Smith's and get a free ticket and give it away. And I always felt like if I filled the stadium with people free ticket, they were going to spend $10 on a hot dog, food. They were going to do something, and I would much rather have 10,000 people in the ballpark who all paid $1 versus one person in the ballpark who paid $10,000.
Right.
The gate's the same, but everything that goes around it. And we were way back in the day, there was a guy by the name of Jimmy Paul owned the El Paso baseball team. And in September, after the minor league baseball season ended, he had the El Paso baseball seminar, and all the minor leaguers would go down and just come up with crazy ass ideas for promotions.
Yeah.
And we were able to bring some back and got some of them to stick. I mean, we did some good stuff in there. Dave did a used car giveaway one night. Found some guy that had an old broken down car, put things out on the field. People were running around picking up Monopoly money trying to win this old car.
Yeah, and I think the winner drove it out of the parking lot, and it broke down a half mile away and had to get it towed. I mean, again, and Steve's point is valid. I mean, I'd rather have a full stadium of people that got in as affordably as possible. But you got to remember, we're in the business of selling sponsorships and advertising too. And what's the value in a fence sign if there's nobody in the stadium looking at it? So, a lot of the things I learned in Salt Lake, I'm still doing in Ogden. Nothing's changed. And Steve taught me my very first day the big, what's the word I'm looking for, motive or whatever we had, is find out what the people want and give it to them. So, and we're still doing it.
And Dirksfield was a place where you could bring your family. And if the husband and the wife want to sit in the stands and watch the game and the kids wanted to run around and cause chaos throughout the park, they could do that. Or if the family just wanted to stay together and, be, together and in the stands, they could do that too. But literally the kids would be, Nathan and Brandon, you wouldn't understand. It was a totally different scene back then. It was like Disneyland in the middle of Salt Lake City.
I was a kid back then, so
okay.
Trappers are my first memory of going to baseball games. And when I do think of Salt Lake baseball, Trappers is the first thing that comes to my mind.
Oh, that's a sweet thing.
And did you guys brought in the famous chicken every year, right?
Yeah.
So we made sure we were there every year for the famous chicken. And I'm sure it's not funny now as an adult, but as a kid, man, we lived for every year to see the famous chicken come to town.
Wow.
And Brandon doesn't even know what we're talking about.
I don't know what that is.
Sidebar story about the famous chicken, Ted Gianellis. When the Gulls collapsed in '84, he didn't get paid. So he sued what was the remains of the ball club, trying to get some money out of the bankruptcy court. He showed up in court wearing his suit because his persona is you don't see his face. True story.
I've got another sidebar. In 1992, my first niece was like 6 months old. So, and this was 1992, and the fee for Ted was $5,000. No, it was $7,500. So after the game, he's in the locker room after the players leave, and he's getting showered. If you ever smell the mascot suit, it's awful. So he's all cleaned up, and I said, I give him a check for $7,500 and said, Ted, do you mind signing one of your photos for my niece? He charged me $5. And I never booked him ever again. Not once did I bring him to Ogden. That just wore on me. I don't know why. It's funny now. Live acts like that were popular in the 80s and 90s aren't as popular today, in my opinion. So we don't really have any live acts. Nobody knows who the Blues Brothers are anymore, so why bring them to town?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well,
you also had Max Paxton. That was fun.
Oh, tell the Max Paxton story, Steve.
1987, right in the middle of the street. Now, going into
it is the game.
I know, but to tee it up, we go into a season, and you got the 24th of July is a Thursday,
Fireworks.
and we live off of promotions, so we had the schedule all set up for, hey, you got a fireworks show on the 24th, and then you're going to do another fireworks show on the 25th, and then you're going to do Max Patkin on the 26th to try to, it was Max on the Friday and then the fireworks on the Saturday. Well, all of a sudden we get in there, and this is the Friday morning, the night that we're going to tie the record, and we're panicked as hell because Max is part of the game. He's coaching first base. He's out on the field. His shtick is where he's part of the game. And so Jack Donovan and I, we were going, God, we can't do Max tonight. This is too big of a deal. We can't do Max. So we ended up going over to his hotel, and Jack is just going, hey, Max, sorry, but we can't have you out there tonight. We just can't do this. And Max broke down and started crying. And basically, he'd been doing this thing since the 1940s all over the country. And he's just going, I've got to do this. This is everything for me. I have to do this. And so Jack went, okay. And so right there, we're going to go to try to tie the record and go Google Max Patkin and watch what he does during his shtick. And it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. He was well behaved as far as not impacting the game itself, but he was out there just doing his regular thing. It was unfreaking believable.
Yeah.
The other thing that you didn't bring up, Steve, is before the game, he came into the clubhouse and he gave the guys a pep talk. He gave the guys a pep talk, and he talked about the old days and how special this team was, even though he didn't really know the team very well, but he was honed in on what was actually going on.
Yeah.
Andy, you remember that pep talk he gave?
I don't remember the pep talk.
He came in and stood in the middle and gave these guys a pep talk. He said he's going to be out there in the middle of the field and doing his thing, but he said he knows that they're going to win the game, and he basically it was an awesome pep talk.
Yeah.
Brandon, did you find Max?
I did. Yeah. I didn't know the name, but as soon as I Googled him, I'm like, I know that face.
Brandon, one of the fun things, and again, you've asked one question in this 20-minute period, and
this is great.
No, this is great. Yeah.
We could just talk about everything. But one of the things during the movie The Streak, the documentary that's currently out now, which, by the way, we're going to do a special viewing at the Newgate Mall next Monday night at 7 p.m.
Oh, cool.
Monday, okay.
Anyway, Wesley Ruff makes mention in the documentary that every night, at least him and the media, they always wanted to be at the ballpark because you never knew if something special was going to happen. And now that you look back and you think about it, not only was the Streak special, but one night there's Geddy Lee from Rush sitting behind home plate. Bill Murray shows up. Next thing you know is Huey Lewis and the News are in the ballpark.
Wow.
It's just stuff. It was just a magical time that I miss it, Steve. I meant, we're still doing the same shtick here in Ogden, but I have to be more cognizant of the business side of it than I do the fun side of it.
Yeah.
Now, we're trying to bring back the fun this year, but the fact of the matter is, I asked you a couple months ago, what did you pay in workers' comp for the players? And you said, who the hell had workers' comp for the players? I'm paying $133,000 in workers' comp insurance to insure the players this year.
Wow.
So, it takes a little bit of the fun out knowing that you've got that kind of bill. But once the gates open and the game starts, then all the business goes out the window, and it's just about having fun and forget about your troubles for a couple hours. This year's theme is take a 3-hour vacation with the Ogden Raptors.
There you go. Are you still up in the press box doing the PA?
I am, but I'm taking 2 nights a week off this year during homestands. I've done enough friggin' baseball games. I can't. Nobody wants to hear me anymore anyway.
So,
hey, Dave, you talk about Bill Murray, you talk about Huey Lewis coming. One of the stories that Ryan and I had, and you guys might not know this, but Bill Murray took Ryan and I to the Huey Lewis concert.
Oh, yeah. Everybody went.
Yeah, but we drove over with Bill, and then Bill got us up on the stage to do Hip to Be Square, and then that same homestand, that same time frame, Ryan and I were at Duffy's Tavern. Obviously, we shouldn't have been there, but we're at Duffy's Tavern as Bill's behind the bartending bar. So he's handing bar, and he keeps handing Ryan and I Cokes, and we would take our Coke, and everyone else is kind of pushing us. You guys got to go back out on the patio and drink your Coke. You can't be in here. I'm 11 years old.
Well, if you're with Bill freaking Murray.
Yeah. What an awesome dude.
not only was Huey Lewis there, but he suited up and coached first base while Bill coached third. And Huey's wearing cowboy boots with a baseball uniform. And Steve, you'll agree with me, still to this day, Huey Lewis and the News did the greatest rendition of the Star Spangled Banner than anybody who's ever done it.
Right.
On the mound.
I know Whitney Houston goes down, but that was pre-recorded and all that. That was the most amazing rendition we've ever heard.
And so
It was
the
a cappella.
acapella. The backstory was I had a young intern working for me, Kathy Condas, and
Pictures, right?
right, and Bill Murray needed a ride from the airport, and Kathy
Right.
had this small little Toyota Celica, and so I said, Kathy, run out to the airport and pick up Bill Murray. Right. She comes back. Bill gets out with Huey. And this is the night before their concert. So that's the night Huey suited up. He went out on the field. Bill took him right into the clubhouse, and they just started rolling, doing their thing. Well, the next night, the night of their concert, they did their sound check. They came back to the stadium to sing the national anthem, and then went back for their concert. And then we all went back over to the old Salt Palace to watch the concert.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one more Bill Murray story. This is years later, Steve. I don't know if you even know this story. Bill and Brian Doyle show up at 9:00 in the morning, and they say they'd go to Tennessee Tommy Hassett and say, Tommy, give me the keys to your car. We're going to go out to Glendale and play some golf. He says, I'm not going to give you my car. Tommy's got like a 1967 rusted out Toyota Corolla. And he says, we don't care. We just need to go out there. Give me the keys. He says, I'll tell you what, you give me the keys, I'll bring you back a new car. So he comes back, he goes out, Tommy gives him the keys immediately, he goes out there, and Bill doesn't show back up till halfway through the game. And he brought Tommy a new car. He brought him a 1968 rusted AMC Gremlin. It's the greatest thing ever.
Tommy's still driving it today.
And Bill took all the empty beer cans that were out of the back seat of Tommy's car and threw them in the back seat of the Gremlin.
So everybody look at the screens here. Look, Dave, get up to the screen. Show your face here. I want to
see my face.
I can see you, but I want everybody to be able to see it. This guy right here's got moxie. Okay. Every one of the players on this streak team, and anyone that ever played for the Trappers, had moxie. You had Neil Reynolds, who said the streak will never be broken until tomorrow night. They broke it. They're the only ones that will ever break this streak. The Trappers are the only ones that ever break this streak. And Dave right now, looking at Dave, is a representation of every single one of those guys that were on the field that night. And and I'll tell you what, the magic that Dave did and Steve did, the players backed it up on the field every single night. There was magic in the stands and there's magic on the field.
Yeah.
Well, we all had a chip on our shoulder because we were all out there wondering why we were overlooked by the major league clubs. And so we knew we were better than the people we were playing against. So we just went out there with a chip on our shoulder, and we didn't just want to win. We wanted to frickin' bury them.
And you did. And you guys did. And it was fun.
Yeah,
it was
three
fun.
in a row. Steve won in 85 and 86, and then we won again in 87, and then we had a couple years, and then back in 90 and 91. It's a storied franchise, man. I'm sorry.
You know, I'm an old man, guys, but I look back and I wish everybody could have a summer like we had in 1987, just in part of their lives. I mean, I know the Ryan and Andy, everybody that was involved. I still talk to one of our ushers, Keith Kendall. We go out to lunch every once in a while. And it's just this thing that we were so lucky to be part of it. And no one's going to have that opportunity again. Things have changed too much, but it was just a special thing. And I keep my silly little website open just because it makes me feel good. Then I can go in there and, have a few little memories about that.
Plug it, Steve. What is it? What is your website?
29inarow.com.
And I thank you for having it.
I'm looking at it right now. Ryan sent it over, so I'm like looking at it to reference. You've got all the games there from game 1, June 25th, 1987, all the way till the streak ended on July 27th, 1987. So
They didn't lose for a month.
it's wild.
They started 3-3, and a month later they were 32-3.
So
Unbelievable.
Steve and Dave, did you guys ever hear of any conflicts in the from any of the players or in the clubhouse or anything like that? Because as far as Andy and I were concerned, there was nothing. The
No.
guys were there. The guys were there for a common goal, and that common goal was, like Dave says, to whoop the shit out of these other players that were better than them, obviously. And it's one of those things that there was no strifes going on that we ever saw. Andy, anything that you ever saw?
No, but how well they treated us, that just showed, because we weren't the only ones they treated well. We were the kids around there, but that
Yeah.
team treated everybody, from what I saw, they treated everybody as a professional, and let's go out and win. Let's work together to win, common goal. Let's get it done. But they treated us like they treated us great.
Like we were
Hey,
part of the team.
not to borrow a similarity to a current pseudo baseball program playing, but the Salt Lake Trappers were the original Savannah Bananas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just go out and have. The reason they had fun is there were no rules. Absolutely zero rules on the players. You're adults. If you don't show up on time, you don't play. Other than that, go get them.
Yeah.
So if there were no rules, you couldn't break any.
Well, you go back to what the players' living arrangements were.
Yeah.
5 or 6 guys crammed into a little apartment up behind the Coachman restaurant on State Street and 13th South. I mean, because no one was making any money, so everybody had to get by, and we gave them $7.50 a day in per diem. They had to buy their breakfast, lunch, and dinner on $7 a day. But everybody wanted to be there,
Yeah.
And I've always said this about, people playing in minor league baseball. They're in a city and nobody wants to be there.
Yeah.
Nobody. If you're in a rookie league club, you want to go up to an A club. If you're an A club, you want to go to the double A. If you're double A, you want to go to triple A. If you're in triple A, you want to go to the show. Nobody wants to be in minor league baseball. They're there to prove something so they can move up the ladder.
Yeah.
And
The one thing different to that, Stephen, and your point is 1,000% valid, except for the last 5 years. Ever since that these 2 former minor leaguers who got disgruntled and became lawyers and sued Major League Baseball, and that's led to part of the contraction of the minor leagues, is now players are looking at the game as if the minor leagues is their career, and it drives me crazy. Minor league baseball is an audition, and it shouldn't be treated as a career. And that's a fight that the industry is losing right now.
That's too bad.
Well, the one thing the Salt Lake City Trappers had, because of the way that the crowds were and such, every team that came to Salt Lake loved it. They thought they were in the big leagues coming into that stadium. It was the largest stadium in the league, number one. Number two, it had more bums in the seats than any other game. And it felt like a big league game if you're in the minor leagues.
Yeah.
Had Mike Runge up there doing the call. It was awesome.
So I chased
And
them
the
out.
view, you can't beat the view. Well, Ogden's pretty close, but back then it was a pretty good view.
It's not. Ogden is not close. We have the best view in baseball.
I didn't want to go there, Dave, because we're talking about the Trappers. But
I know, but I
you got
still
a very
got an
good,
ego, Andy.
you've got a very beautiful view.
Hey, Steve, I've got a plug for my mom, and I want to tell you thanks for keeping her on as the scorekeeper. She ran the scoreboard, and she has fond memories of you, Dave, and of you, Steve, obviously, for what you had done for the 2 kids that are in front of you right now, but plus my brothers and my little sister, who was a Trapper girl, and
program distributor.
Yep, program contributor. I can tell you, Steve and Dave, you may have had me and Andy peddling free beer to the umpires and the coaches and a few players. and things like that, and sneaking a few out the back door to our fathers. But Andy and I, to this day, don't drink. We don't chew tobacco, even though we went over to 7-Eleven and bought tobacco for the guys.
At
But
11, at 10 years of age.
yeah, but the thing is we knew where we were. We had no rules, but we knew a rule was we didn't drink any of the alcohol. There was a rule that we weren't dipping any of the tobacco. And you guys looked out for us, the players, the staff. It didn't matter who it was. Everybody looked out for us. We didn't get into any trouble doing anything, but we got away with murder.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way. Even though we didn't drink anything or chew anything.
Steve, can you tell a quick story about how you got your cleanup crew?
Was her name Rita?
Renee.
Frank and Renee. I had Frank and Renee all the way through Salt Lake. They did the first 3 years in Ogden with me too.
So
awesome.
It started out in '85. I ended up hiring some young high school kids that worked for went to school at Judge Memorial. Anyway, I can't remember if it was in '86 or '87. A homeless couple that lived out of their truck, lived out of their pickup truck, approached me about doing some extra work. And I said, okay, this is going to be inexpensive. And so what I let them do is park their truck inside the stadium. And then that couple, along with the boys from Judge, they worked during the game. Frank and Renee worked during the game to keep the bathrooms clean, restock, all that stuff. And then they would spearhead the overnight cleanup crew to make sure everything was clean. And we wanted the stadium clean by 8 o'clock in the morning, because if not, the wind would blow and you'd have stuff everywhere. So they worked all night. They slept in the stadium on the other end, away from Tommy Hassett. He had his room down on the left field side. They parked their truck down on the right field side, and it was wonderful. It was just fabulous.
It averaged about $5 a day. And a fifth of Jack Daniels.
But she was a tough cookie. Andy and I couldn't get away with anything.
And you could get 2 feet from her, and if she didn't have her teeth in, you couldn't understand a word she was saying.
That's right. She would get after us for being in her way because she had stuff to clean up. And
she was, Frank just said yes to her and got the hell out of the way.
Yeah, that just emphasized, at that time in minor league baseball, we just did what we had to do, right? We had to operate inexpensively and make it work. And back then, there were no rules. There was nothing that says, hey, you can't do that. What the hell?
Why
sure,
not?
we can.
We had the greatest promotions in the history of minor league baseball right there at Derek Field.
That is true. Yep, there was nothing better. And if the teams did that, like even if the Bees, if they incorporated what you guys did, the entertainment during the middle of the game would be so much better, because it was so entertaining. What you guys put on the field was a fabulous product.
Yeah. Well, we're still doing it. The Raptors are still, if you scramble the letters around, you still can spell Trappers out of it. But we're still doing the same stuff, man. This year we're going to require players that aren't in the starting lineup to be in the stands, talking to fans, and stand there throughout the national anthem.
Awesome.
So
that's great.
Just fun little stuff. And it's the little things that create memories. Everything we talked about today was not really talking about economics or money. It was just talking about having fun. And it's funny, we've been on this thing almost an hour, and literally Brandon's asked one question. So if you got another question, Brandon, ask away.
This is what I was expecting. You guys have the stories and the experience, and that's what we wanted to bring together today. I know you're still running a club. You got a team to attend to, Dave.
That's okay. I wanted to mention real quick, I still think there's an opportunity to bring the Trappers back in Salt Lake. So if you could let your viewers of your podcast know if they have any ideas of a ballpark where the Trappers can play that could accommodate, say, up to 4,000 people, tell them to reach out to me, because we can do it in a heartbeat. Who knows? Maybe something will happen where they don't dismantle Smith's Ballpark to the degree that it's planned to, And who knows, maybe there is the opportunity to go back there for
Let's just occupy
2026.
Smith's ballpark. They can't tear it
Yeah.
down if we're there.
What about up at the
yeah.
U? Is the U not an option? Their new stadium?
Well, they've got their new stadium, and they don't have enough seats that are being built to make a business model out of it.
And
Okay.
and
It's
the
being
business.
built for college athletics, which is all about wellness rooms and weight rooms and locker rooms and batting cages and all that. I think they're only building like 1,200 seats there for a $44 million ballpark.
And the infrastructure for food and beverage is not
Yeah.
not what you need. I mean,
Yeah.
you've got to be able to. I mean, and that's the reality of it is you're a hospitality venue that plays a baseball game for entertainment is the way you have to look at it.
Here's a throwback for you guys. This year with the Raptors, and I hate doing shameless plugs, but every night something's going on. But I'm doing something new this year for Sunday games, which start at 1:00. Last year we averaged about 2,000 a game on Sunday, which I'll take any day of the week. Sundays in Utah, but I'm saying, how do I increase that? Can we get the 3? Well, there's no free tickets for Sunday. It's $17 to get in, but the food is free. So if you want to come up and eat to your heart, there's no coupons, no hook.
Nate's
Get
sold.
line and get your free foods. So come on up to Ogden. We'll treat you right. It's the Trappers 2.0, and it'll always be that way.
It's a great way for people to break their fast, if they're having
Doing
trouble getting to that.
Yes. Can I have a handful of nitrates, please?
It's free. It's free.
It's like Chuckarama or Raptors game.
Right. That's the premise, man. I'm hoping you can't eat more than $17 worth of food.
Don't challenge him.
I think that's a challenge.
Some
I think
people
that's a
will
challenge.
triple that. But for the most people, I think
Yeah.
people are kind-hearted. They'll have some. And we have a full-service bar on the first baseline, too. So anyway,
Well, I think a lot of these games were won for the streak on superstition. I mean, there's a lot of the players had their own superstition. I don't remember all of them, but I know that Citronelli wrapped his bat with a towel, and there was a few things like that. Tim Peters, you didn't even come close to Tim Peters before any game at all. I mean, if you're even getting close to him, you just better walk by, just keep on walking. Don't look at him. Don't stop to even talk with him or anything like that. And did you have anything that you had for any of the player superstitions you can remember?
No, I just know that we had our own, and some of them we got from Baggett.
Let's hear it.
Our own that you do your socks this way. You don't change the way you do your socks. You do your rally caps. Everything you did everything the same.
Right leg
changed.
Right leg goes in first in your pants. Then the left leg, and I could not. Every time I got in the on deck circle, I had to retie my shoes and never step on the baseline.
Never. We never did that. So during the whole game, Ryan and I would never. You never stepped on the baseline. You always jumped it.
Yep. All right. I know Andy and Ryan are going to know this. Brandon, Nathan, you guys know what a sanitary sock is?
Yeah.
I do not. I hope you'll enlighten us.
So back in the day, there were two socks. A sanitary, which was like a tube sock, real thin, that you put on first, and then you put on your stirrup over that. And then you put your pants in, and then you would fold that down over your pants.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you pull it up nice and tight.
Yeah. Had those in Little League, right?
Do you know who was the first major league player to wear a soccer-style sock in baseball, which is still going on today?
No clue.
Scott Erickson, when he was pitching for the Minnesota Twins.
Wow.
Again, another useless fact that I'm brilliant with.
You know, there's one thing, Steve and Dave, I don't know if one thing I never got done for y'all when I was a bat boy, and I'm sorry. And if I do come across it, I'll give it to you, but I never found the key to the batter's box.
we still do that. And last year we had a bat boy come up to the press box and want to know where we put the bag of curveballs.
I remember that one too.
And you paid that guy $40 a day?
Yeah. Hey, listen, guys, I have to run. I got a team meeting that starts in 5 minutes. I would love to do this again. even if there's a way to do it live, or maybe some people can call in with questions, that'd be awesome. Because you could talk to Artie Moreno in Anaheim right now and get him on the call, and he would share the same stories about the Trappers, more so with a smile on his face than he probably does with the Angels today. You can't talk about the Trappers without a smile.
Maybe we can get a few players. Steve and Dave, do you think we have any contacts that maybe we get Colston or anyone?
Absolutely.
We all do. I mean, the documentary, Dave's coming out next week. They're gonna,
If you guys want to come up to the Newgate Mall next Monday night at 7 p.m. To the Cinemark theaters, it's going to air there. The soft drinks and popcorn's on me. It's only a 75-seat theater, so we want to do this one, and then maybe we can get the 400-seat for later on in the summer. And I'm doing this for Kellen Ikegami, who's the producer of the film. And it's also, I want our players to see it too, because they're in the same boat now, and I want them to see what it took and what they can achieve if they do the right things. And it's a remarkable thing. And again, I'll be 64, 65 next month. Steve's 67, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You guys are damn near 50. I don't know how old you are.
52 in a couple of days.
And we talk about these stories like it was yesterday.
Yep.
So anyway, I got to run, guys. Feel free to reach out to me anytime.
Hey, guys, this was fun.
Thanks, Dave.
Ryan, thanks for putting together. Brandon, Nathan, talk a little bit more next time. And
I think we ruin it if we talk. That's the problem.
We'll have to get you on for a goals episode, Steve.
Okay. All right. Let's do it.
Well, they kind of left the door open that we could do another episode. Maybe not within this same year. Maybe not in 2025, but maybe someday we'll do another follow-up and ask some of the questions. I know there was a couple questions we had that we weren't able to get answers to, but that's okay.
I got it. Let's start a new streak that every year we talk about the streak.
Oh, so we're going to go, how many games was it? 28?
29.
29 games, 29 episodes, 29 years straight of us talking about the streak. Yeah, I think we can do that.
Every year.
Hope you guys like baseball.
As much as we do.
As much as we do. I think there's more baseball in the future for us. And I'm okay with it. We've got quite a storied history here in Salt Lake. Or let's just say in Utah. Quite a storied history of baseball.
I always thought that I had such fond memories of the Trappers just because I was a kid. When I was growing up, I was a kid, if you didn't know that. But when I was a kid going to the games, and so I always wondered, was it just because I was a kid, or was it really the Trappers? And I think that kind of helped answer my question, that the Trappers did have a different vibe that you obviously never got to experience. And it's funny that he brought up the Savannah Bananas, because when I watch the Savannah Bananas, I kind of have some nostalgic memories pull up of going to the Trappers games. And I'm like, that's kind of crazy that he said that, because that's the way I feel when I watch Savannah Bananas, that it kind of takes me back to my memories of going to the Trappers games. And like I said, they had a lot to say, which is totally okay. It was really fun just to hear the guys just chew the fat with each other and bring up some memories. You could tell it was
kind of reunion.
We really had it was a memory walk down memory lane for them. But as a kid, I loved going to the games. Like I mentioned, I loved seeing the famous chicken, and he's probably, if you watch today, wouldn't be as funny, but as a kid, it was
so
hilarious.
What is that?
The famous chicken, you can just Google some videos. It was a mascot that wasn't a mascot for any team. So what he would do was go to sporting events. I think baseball was pretty much what he did. So he would just travel the country going to baseball games, and they would pay him like he talked about. And then he was just the mascot at the game. And he would do all these little skits and do what mascots really do. And I don't know, maybe he was the one that kind of made mascots what they are today. Yeah. So I wonder if he helped make mascots what they are today. I bet you he had something to do with it, to where they really kind of, what's the word, interact with the crowd.
Right.
But as a kid, so we loved going. My dad would take us to the games a little bit early, and I would always take my baseball glove and a marker. And I know they're just minor league baseball players, but to me, it was the same thing as meeting a celebrity. If any of those players would come and sign my glove, I remember going to the baseball fields by my house to just play ball, some pickup ball with some friends, and there was a older guy there, probably 19 or 20, and he was just working out by himself. And then he told me that he was trying out for the Trappers. And I'm like, I ran and grabbed my mitt and my pen and like, will you sign it? Like, that's just how, like, they were celebrities to me. I mean, they're professional athletes, but it was just fun going to the games. And they did. And I don't know. I don't go to many Bees games anymore. And I don't know if the players are out there interacting and signing autographs and stuff like they did, but they were very interactive and very good at
fan engagement.
Fan engagement, make sure the fans had a good time. And they were. Every game was a blast. And now when I go to Bees games, I'm watching baseball. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like to sit back and just watch the game, and I don't really
take in the environment.
They have that much entertainment, but my personality, if they did want to do some fan engagement and have some fun with it, I would totally be on board with that. So now I'm really wanting to go check out a Raptors game.
Yeah.
I just never made it up that way.
We have reason to. Nate,
we've tried a few times.
Free food on Sundays?
Well, is it free? It's $18.
All you can eat food for $18.
Right.
It's like what Coastal Carolina, right? They're offering free concessions to everybody at every football game.
Really?
And yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I mean that's gonna be more expensive than a Raptors ticket, but
I think that'd be the only way I could get my kids out to willingly go to a baseball game. So I don't know.
I'll go with you, Nate. I think we've got a reason to make it up to the field, up to Ogden. So I'll go with you.
I know. I'm like pretty excited to go check it out now. So
I am too. I can't believe it's been on the list, but we've never done it.
Right. And I finally drove by the new B Stadium about a week ago. I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, I drove by it before when they were building it, but I hadn't seen it like completed. So I don't go out that way very often. But
yeah.
But I did see like a clip from their game the other day. And there wasn't very many people in the stands.
Really?
So I was kind of shocked. I thought maybe that everyone's there probably for the first week or so, and now that's kind of died off. And now it's probably just back to business as usual. But it might have been an afternoon game as well. I'm not sure. It just didn't feel like there's a lot of people in the crowd. Yeah,
when I've gone to games, it's never sold out. I mean, it's never very packed. And I mean, how many people does the stadium seat? Like just hearing about the Trappers, it sounds like they could bring in a much bigger crowd than even the Bees can today. There's no way there's 6,000 people at a Bees game, is there?
I don't know.
Maybe some games.
Well, it says they have the capacity to hold 8,000.
Okay.
At the new stadium.
So it's half of that. It's still not, 6,000 and what they're pulling in for the Trappers.
But
I'm not comparing them. I still like the Bees.
Well, right.
I mean, I'm wearing a Bees hat right now.
Right.
But
I do remember that as a kid going to the Trappers games, they were pretty full. And the few Bees games I've gone to over the years since, I feel like you could buy a ticket in the nosebleed and just walk down and sit on the front row.
Right.
So it's kind of sad. The only time I feel like the Bees games really gets attendance is firework night. And
or if you've got somebody coming down
to rehab.
Yeah. Well, I think again, a lot of baseball in our future, but we need to make it to, it's the first year. We got to go to a Bees game, right? It's our podcast responsibility. Got to find a way to get there. We got to go to a Raptors game. Lots of baseball. Lots of baseball in the future. We'll try and spread it out so it's not all at once.
That's just sad. And I guess we probably should go pay our respects to the Smith Ballpark.
Yeah, we haven't done an episode about that place yet.
Are they? I feel like I drove by there today and they were doing something there. So they
don't
must
know.
still be doing some events, or maybe, I don't know. But that's going to be sad to drive by that area and it's not have it be there anymore.
I mean, the track
Or a
stop is
baseball
called
field.
Ballpark.
I know. What
So
are they going
it's-
to call it now?
What is it
Nightmare
now?
on 13th?
Actually, okay, I'm all right with that change. This is the Nightmare stop,
Nightmare on 13th stop.
the Lucky 13 stop. Yeah, it's going to change that area a little bit, but either way, thanks again to everyone we had on. It was a little bit different than what we've been used to, probably a record, probably the most people we've had on the podcast at a time. Yeah, no, it's probably still 6 of us in total. I think that's the most we've done. Either way, a fun time. It's really cool to learn more about this because it's not something I knew about until you introduced it to me. And so I think it's good to get that knowledge out there. I mean, the sports world, trying to Google and find out the top streaks in sports history. It's really sad to not see this on the list because it is. There was one, and it when he was even a smaller league baseball team, like in Minnesota, it said that they had the most consecutive wins at like 20. I'm like, what? Why is that on this list? And the Trappers are not. It definitely deserves a seat at the table for such a streak. And I mean, it's hard to have any streak in sports, but that many games in baseball, it's pretty remarkable. Magical, like they kept saying. So
I agree. That's tough. Doesn't matter how good you are in any professional sport.
you can have an
Just
off
takes
day.
Just takes one bad night.
Yeah. So if you want to take this as the official start of your, what would you say, paying homage to the streak. Today is the start. June 25th was the first day that began the storied streak. And it would do us good to remember that throughout the rest of the month and into next month till the streak ends. So they alluded to some events coming up. If we hear of anything, we can let people know about if they're interested in checking them out. But yeah, good times.
Yeah, that was fun. Glad you had connections, Brandon.
I do what I can.
Glad somebody was paying attention to the podcast.
Somebody was listening.
Well, I just think it's funny that you're going to go from not even really knowing who the Trappers were to being an expert. And you probably have more connections to the Trappers than most Utahns have now.
Do.
So just saying.
Thanks to the podcast. The journeys we've gone on.
It just keeps on giving and giving and give some more.
We've got so much more in store for you guys. Thanks for listening to This Is a Place podcast.
And this was a team we just talked about.